May 11th. There's still lots of snow, and I'm gonna try get a couple.
May 11th. The snow still blankets the vast expanse of the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, thick and unyielding, stretching farther than the eye can see. It is in this unforgiving wilderness that Heimo Korth has built a life unlike any other in modern America. They warned everyone about him, saying no one could survive the way he chose to live, that the wilderness would eventually claim him as it had claimed so many before. Yet Heimo Korth is living proof that human resilience and skill can bend even the harshest environment to one's will. He has not only survived but thrived, becoming a legend in his own right, a symbol of the frontier spirit that once drove men to the edges of the known world. Heimo Korth is the last man standing between civilization and the true, untamed Alaskan wilds. Rain, snow, or blistering cold, he lives exactly as the original frontiersman lived, dependent solely on his own skill, his wits, and his understanding of nature. He has become an embodiment of independence, a man whose life is intertwined with the rhythm of the Arctic. Every decision he makes carries weight. Every mistake could be fatal. And yet, he persists. The Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, where Heimo calls home, is larger than most states and almost entirely untouched by modern human activity. There are no roads, no neighbors, no safety nets. It is a place where survival is dictated by knowledge, patience, and respect for the land. Heimo Korth has mastered each of these traits, shaping a life that most could only imagine in dreams. His story is more than survival. It is a testament to human determination and the power of living in harmony with nature's harshest realities. Today we delve into the story of Heimo Korth, the man who lives farther from civilization than almost anyone else in America, and the journey that led him to become a legend. For someone as legendary as Heimo Korth, it would be easy to assume he was born in Alaska, that the frigid wilderness coursed through his veins from the very beginning. The truth, however, is far more surprising. Heimo Korth was born in Wisconsin, a place that could not be more different from the Arctic frontier he would one day call home. Yet even in the Midwest, a spirit of adventure burned within him, a drive to seek the unknown, to push beyond the boundaries of ordinary life. At just 22 years old, Heimo made the life-altering decision to leave everything behind. He packed his belongings into 2 duffel bags, carrying only what he could fit, and set out on a Greyhound bus from Fairbanks. The year was 1974, and Alaska still held the air of a true frontier, a place where a man could vanish into the wilderness and carve out a life according to his own rules, provided he had the courage and skill to survive. Heimo did not yet fully understand the reality of what awaited him. The romantic notion of frontier life, full of adventure and self-sufficiency, was one thing. The unforgiving Arctic wilderness was another entirely. The cold was unlike anything he had ever experienced, and the isolation tested him in ways Wisconsin had never prepared him for. Yet even as he faced the vast empty landscape, Heimo felt a profound certainty that this was where he belonged. Unlike the temporary workers who came to Alaska seeking short-term gain, Heimo sought permanence. He wanted a life that mirrored the days when America was still largely unexplored, a life dictated by the rhythm of nature rather than the demands of society. Every mile northward brought him closer to the unknown, each moment fraught with uncertainty, yet Heimo's resolve never wavered. The journey was not just physical. It was a step into the shaping of a legend, the beginning of a transformation that would see a farm boy from Wisconsin become one of the most skilled wilderness survivors in the world. In those early days, Heimo carried only his duffel bags and a heart full of hope. But what he lacked in experience, he made up for in determination, a determination that would carry him through some of the harshest tests nature could impose. The wilderness did not welcome Heimo Korth gently. The Arctic was a harsh, unrelenting teacher, ready to punish any misstep. Early on, he discovered that his farm upbringing and work ethic, while helpful, were far from sufficient to guarantee survival. The isolation, the biting cold, and the unpredictability of the Arctic forced him to confront a reality that was harsher than he could have imagined. In the 1970s, Alaska's remote landscapes were full of challenges that required not just strength but knowledge. Heimo quickly realized that surviving in this environment required skills that went far beyond what a young man could learn in a classroom or on a farm. Yet rather than succumb to despair, he embraced the challenge. He became a student of the land, learning from the older generations who had lived through Alaska's territorial days. Hunters, trappers, and bush pilots, these men carried knowledge passed down from eras when the wilderness was even less forgiving. They became Heimo's teachers, imparting lessons in tracking, hunting, and understanding the rhythms of life in the Arctic. Heimo learned to read weather patterns, to observe the subtle signs that animals leave in their paths, and to understand the delicate balance of the ecosystem around him. He discovered that survival depended as much on mental acuity as it did on physical strength. Patience, observation, and timing were as important as the ability to chop wood or build shelter. Every skill he acquired was a shield against the dangers that lurked beyond his small circle of experience. In this early phase of his journey, Heimo also faced the sobering realization that mistakes could be fatal. Unlike other places he had known, the Arctic allowed no room for error. Yet it was precisely this reality that shaped him. The more he learned, the more capable he became. The wilderness, once an unknown threat, began to reveal itself as a place of opportunity for those willing to listen and learn. It was through mentorship that Heimo's knowledge truly deepened. Phil Jagga, a seasoned trapper with decades of experience, recognized something exceptional in the young man from Wisconsin. Under Phil's guidance, Heimo honed his trapping techniques, learning to construct and maintain trap lines that could stretch for hundreds of miles. He learned to select prime locations for traps, to prepare and preserve furs, and to track animals with a precision that would have seemed impossible in his early days. More than technical skills, Phil taught Heimo the mindset required for long-term survival. Patience, discipline, and psychological fortitude became as important as the ability to set traps or read the weather. Heimo learned how to endure isolation for months, how to remain vigilant without succumbing to fear or frustration, and how to make decisions under pressure with potentially life-threatening consequences. Through this mentorship, Heimo absorbed the deep wisdom of living in harmony with the Arctic environment. He learned that survival was not just a series of tasks, but a holistic understanding of the land, its animals, and its rhythms. Every lesson from Phil Jagga became a foundation upon which Heimo would build his life as a master wilderness survivor. By the late 1970s, Heimo had begun translating his knowledge into tangible accomplishments. One of his most significant undertakings was constructing a cabin entirely on his own. Using only hand tools, he designed and built a structure capable of withstanding the extreme Arctic winters. The foundation prevented frost heaving, the walls provided insulation sufficient to maintain warmth even in 60 below zero temperatures, and the roof was engineered to support massive snow loads. This cabin was more than a shelter. It was a manifestation of Heimo's understanding of Arctic survival. Each design choice reflected lessons learned from years of experience, from tracking animals to preserving food. His first winter alone tested every skill he had acquired. Hunting, fishing, and food preservation became matters of survival, and the cabin itself was a critical lifeline. Heimo had to adapt continuously, making small but essential decisions that would determine whether he survived or failed. Through this period, Heimo's mastery extended beyond practical skills to mental resilience. The solitude, the relentless cold, and the constant physical demands would have broken many, yet he remained focused, disciplined, and determined. His successes during this time were proof of his transformation from a young, inexperienced adventurer into a capable, independent Arctic survivor. Heimo's survival was rooted in his deep understanding of the Arctic's seasonal rhythms. Hunting and fishing required precise timing, as the Arctic offered only brief windows when these activities were productive. He mastered the art of preserving meat and fish, ensuring that summer abundance could sustain him through the long, barren winters. Caribou hunting demanded knowledge of migration patterns, tracking skills, and patience. Fishing required identifying the most productive rivers and lakes, understanding the behavior of each species, and using techniques that maximized yield. Heimo's innovations, combined with traditional methods, allowed him to thrive where others would struggle. By the mid-1980s, Heimo had fully transitioned from Wisconsin farm boy to skilled Arctic survivalist. His techniques, discipline, and understanding of the land were complete, and he had proven that he could survive alone in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Yet, the greatest test was still ahead, the decision to make the Arctic his permanent home. Choosing a life in the wilderness over civilization is rare, but for Heimo Korth, the decision was natural. Alongside his wife, Edna, he was dropped by helicopter into the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, an area larger than many states and virtually untouched by human activity. Here, there were no roads, no neighbors, and no rescue possibilities. This permanent settlement demanded total responsibility. Every choice, from food procurement to shelter maintenance, carried consequences. Heimo had prepared for years for this moment, and the Arctic became both his ultimate test and his ultimate reward. Living in such isolation required skill, discipline, and psychological fortitude. Heimo and Edna adapted to a life dictated by the rhythms of nature, embracing both the beauty and danger of their environment. Their existence was a modern echo of the lives of frontiersmen who had come before them, yet it was uniquely their own. Heimo Korth's story is a testament to human endurance, skill, and resilience. He has become a living legend, a man who thrives in conditions that would overwhelm almost anyone else. His life demonstrates the extraordinary possibilities of living in harmony with nature, of mastering oneself and one's environment through patience, observation, and determination. From a Wisconsin farm boy with little knowledge of the Arctic to a permanent resident of one of the most extreme environments on Earth, Heimo's journey embodies courage, adaptation, and the unyielding human spirit. His legacy is not only a story of survival, but also a reminder that the wildest frontiers still hold lessons for those willing to learn, respect, and endure. In the heart of Alaska, Heimo Korth remains, the last man standing between civilization and the untamed wilderness, a true master of his world, a legend in life and survival. Life in the Arctic is a constant rhythm of survival and adaptation. For Heimo Korth, every day begins with purpose. He rises early, often before sunrise, to check his traps and observe the subtle movements of wildlife. Even the smallest signs, a broken branch, a faint track in the snow, can indicate where caribou, foxes, or other animals are moving. Food procurement dominates his schedule. Hunting, fishing, and trapping are not seasonal hobbies but essential survival tasks. He carefully rotates his traps, maintains fish nets, and ensures that every action is purposeful. Preservation is equally critical. Meat is smoked, frozen, or stored to last the long months when hunting is impossible. Heimo's cabin is both home and workshop. He maintains it meticulously, reinforcing the roof against heavy snow, sealing gaps against winter winds, and storing supplies for emergencies. Even the simplest tasks, cutting wood, melting snow for water, or repairing tools, are approached with precision because in the Arctic, small mistakes can become dangerous. Beyond survival, Heimo finds moments of reflection. He observes the aurora borealis, listens to the wind, and contemplates the vast silence that surrounds him. These moments reinforce the delicate balance of his life, a harmony between man and wilderness that is both challenging and deeply rewarding. Each season brings its own trials. Winter, with temperatures plunging far below zero, tests even the most prepared survivor. Heimo relies on his experience to layer clothing, ration food, and monitor weather conditions. Frostbite and hypothermia are constant threats, yet years of practice have honed his instincts and preparedness. Spring and summer are no less demanding. The thaw brings opportunities for fishing and hunting, but also the challenge of unpredictable weather and rapidly changing landscapes. Ice melts, rivers swell, and animals move to new territories. Heimo must adapt quickly, reading subtle signs to predict conditions and locate food sources. Fall, perhaps the most critical season, is a time of preparation. Every ounce of food and fuel stored during summer and spring must be ready for the long, isolating winter ahead. Heimo meticulously plans, stores, and monitors, knowing that failure to prepare could jeopardize his entire survival strategy. Through all seasons, adaptability is key. Heimo has learned to accept uncertainty, to anticipate change, and to move with the land's rhythm rather than against it. This continuous adaptation is what separates survival from mere existence. Even a master like Heimo Korth faces emergencies that test his knowledge and courage. Heavy snowstorms, sudden avalanches, or equipment failures can turn a normal day into a life-threatening ordeal. Heimo relies on mental discipline, problem-solving, and his deep familiarity with the environment to navigate these crises. Once, during a particularly brutal winter storm, Heimo had to trek several miles in near-zero visibility to secure his trapped animals. Each step required calculated precision to avoid hidden ice or sudden drop-offs. His survival depended on knowledge gained from years of observation and experience. These extreme situations are not merely tests of endurance. They are reminders of the Arctic's unforgiving nature. Heimo thrives because he respects the land, anticipates risks, and makes each decision deliberately. Even when adversity strikes, he remains calm, assessing the situation and responding with efficiency and skill. Isolation in the Arctic is not just a physical state. It is a mental and spiritual journey. Heimo Korth embraces solitude, seeing it not as loneliness but as an opportunity for reflection, clarity, and self-reliance. In the silence of the wilderness, he has cultivated patience, resilience, and an appreciation for the smallest details of life. Heimo believes that true survival requires understanding oneself as much as understanding the land. Every decision, from tracking animals to building shelter, is informed by self-awareness and mental discipline. Mistakes are costly, but they also teach lessons that no book or mentor can provide. This philosophy extends beyond mere survival. Heimo sees harmony with nature as central to life in the Arctic. Respect for animals, careful observation of weather, and attention to seasonal patterns allow him to live sustainably, leaving minimal impact on the fragile ecosystem around him. Heimo Korth's life is intertwined with the creatures of the Arctic. Every day brings encounters with animals, some benign, some dangerous. Caribou migrate through his territory, wolves roam silently across the snow, and bears patrol the edges of his hunting grounds. Heimo has learned to observe without disturbing, to track without threatening, and to coexist without confrontation. Tracking animals is both a science and an art. Heimo reads footprints in the snow, interprets broken branches, and notes subtle changes in vegetation to predict movement. Each encounter teaches him patience, humility, and respect for the wilderness. Predators like wolves or bears are never underestimated. Heimo always maintains awareness, using his knowledge to avoid conflict while remaining ready for survival if danger approaches. These interactions highlight a central truth of Heimo's existence. Survival is not about domination over nature, but harmony with it. Through years of observation, he has developed a profound understanding of animal behavior, one that allows him to anticipate patterns, secure food, and maintain safety. In the Arctic, this connection with wildlife is not optional. It is essential. Though Heimo lives in extreme isolation, the occasional human presence reminds him of civilization's distant pull. Researchers, wildlife officers, or the rare adventurer occasionally cross into his domain. These interactions are brief but significant, offering both challenge and insight. Heimo's approach to visitors is cautious but hospitable. He respects boundaries and privacy, yet is willing to share knowledge with those who show respect for the wilderness. Through these encounters, he demonstrates the same patience and discipline that define his solitary life. For Heimo, interaction is a measured exchange, never hurried, never taken lightly. Even minimal contact with people reinforces the uniqueness of his lifestyle. The contrast between Heimo's self-sufficiency and the dependency most humans have on society underscores the depth of his achievement. He lives completely on his own terms, a testament to the skills and discipline cultivated over decades. Life in the Arctic is cyclical, and Heimo's long-term survival depends on careful planning and execution. Summer is spent fortifying shelters, preserving food, and maintaining tools. Winter is devoted to hunting, trapping, and enduring the cold. Spring and fall are transition periods, times to prepare for upcoming challenges and adapt to changing conditions. Heimo meticulously documents his methods and strategies. Every action is intentional, from storing perishable foods to repairing trap lines and reinforcing cabins. Seasonal projects require foresight, ensuring enough meat and fish are preserved for months when hunting is impossible, and monitoring wildlife patterns to plan next year's strategy. This continuous cycle of preparation and execution defines Heimo's existence. Success is not measured in convenience or comfort, but in readiness and resilience. Each season is both a test and a lesson, reinforcing the skills and mindset needed to thrive in one of the harshest environments on Earth. Even after decades in the wilderness, Heimo faces emergencies that challenge his experience and resilience. Sudden storms, frozen rivers, or equipment failure can transform a routine day into a life-or-death scenario. Heimo relies on his training, knowledge, and calm judgment to navigate these crises. He has experienced blizzards that blocked entire valleys, treacherous ice conditions that threatened travel, and animal encounters that tested both skill and courage. In each case, his response is measured and precise. He evaluates risk, adapts his strategy, and executes tasks with unwavering focus. These extreme situations serve as reminders of the Arctic's unpredictability. Heimo's mastery of survival is not a guarantee against danger, but a framework for facing it successfully. Each challenge reinforces the mental and physical discipline that has become second nature over decades of isolation. Heimo Korth's life embodies resilience and independence. Living without infrastructure, neighbors, or modern conveniences, he has cultivated a mindset that emphasizes self-reliance, adaptability, and respect for nature. Solitude is a teacher. In isolation, Heimo has learned to face fear, uncertainty, and extreme hardship without despair. Each day reinforces the importance of patience, observation, and deliberate action. Mistakes are costly, yet each one offers insight, sharpening his skills and judgment. Heimo's philosophy extends beyond survival. He views life in the Arctic as a balance between human capability and environmental harmony. By living in sync with natural rhythms, respecting wildlife, and understanding seasonal changes, he achieves a life that is both challenging and profoundly rewarding. Independence for Heimo is not isolation, it is mastery of oneself and one's environment. Living in the Arctic has given Heimo Korth a perspective on civilization that few ever experience. From his isolated vantage point, he observes the conveniences, routines, and dependencies of modern life with a mixture of admiration and detachment. He respects human ingenuity, yet he understands that reliance on technology and infrastructure comes at a cost, an absence of self-reliance, a disconnection from nature, and a vulnerability that only wilderness survival can teach. Heimo often reflects on how different life in the Arctic is from life in cities or even rural Wisconsin. Decisions that might seem trivial in civilization, finding food, heating a home, or traveling a short distance, carry real consequences in the Arctic. Each day in the wilderness reinforces the value of preparation, skill, and mindfulness. Through this lens, Heimo appreciates the freedoms and comforts of modern life, but chooses intentionally to live apart, valuing independence over convenience. He also believes that civilization often dulls the human spirit. Many people live without challenge, without real responsibility, and without facing their limits. By contrast, the Arctic demands presence, attentiveness, and courage. Each winter, each storm, each hunt is a test of both physical and mental strength. Heimo's reflections are not merely about rejection of society, they are about understanding the profound lessons that only isolation and self-sufficiency can teach Heimo. Korth's life offers invaluable lessons for anyone who seeks adventure or wishes to understand survival in extreme environments. His story demonstrates that mastery of the wilderness requires patience, discipline, observation, and respect for the natural world. Survival is not about brute strength alone. It is about intelligence, careful planning, and adaptability. Modern adventurers can learn from Heimo's meticulous preparation. Food preservation, understanding seasonal rhythms, tracking wildlife, and maintaining shelter are all essential skills that he perfected through years of trial and error. Beyond the technical skills, Heimo exemplifies resilience, the mental fortitude to endure long months of solitude, harsh conditions, and unpredictable challenges. Equally important is Heimo's philosophy of harmony with the environment. The wilderness is not an enemy, it is a partner. By observing patterns, respecting wildlife, and adapting to seasonal changes, he thrives without overexploiting his surroundings. This lesson extends beyond survival. It is a reminder of the delicate balance humans must maintain with the natural world. Heimo's legacy is not just a tale of personal endurance. It is an example of what humanity can achieve when it embraces independence, self-reliance, and respect for the world around it. His story inspires modern adventurers to prepare carefully, act thoughtfully, and cultivate both physical and mental resilience. In the harshest conditions on Earth, Heimo Korth has shown that life is not merely about surviving. It is about mastering one's environment while preserving the integrity of nature itself.